Alright guys, welcome back to the Tech Forum. Today we're going to compare our new 10th generation Civic Si with our 2018 Tesla Model 3. Alright guys, a couple general bits of information about the Honda. The Honda Civic Si is not a separate model. It's basically just a Civic that's been warmed over a little bit, and the primary differences are more boost in the engine for more horsepower, adjustable suspension. It only comes in a 6-speed version, sport seats, and there's various other small differences, but this really isn't a sports car. It's an economy car that was sprinkled with some performance goodies to make it more sporting, but that also makes it a good car to compare with the Model 3, primarily because of the fact that neither of them is a hard-edged sports car. Some of the specs: it's a 1.5 liter inline-4 turbocharged. Honda rates the engine at 20.5 psi of manifold pressure, but any of the reviews that you read, and including my own personal findings, is that 17 psi is the max boost that you're ever really going to see on it. You would assume that the car is a hatchback. I would have preferred a hatchback actually for each car, but it only comes with a trunk. The trunk is relatively spacious, the seats fold down, but again, it wasn't purchased for practicality, it was purchased for weekend fun. I average anywhere from 34 to 42 miles to the gallon in general mixed driving. I've been able to achieve over 50 miles to the gallon on it if I hypermile it, but that's no fun. The sport seats, I like them. They fit my body shape very, very well. However, I have found that in long trips they're a little bit restrictive. Even though they are comfortable, they're a bit restrictive. The stock floor mats are terrible. This car has only 5,000 miles on it at this point, but there was already a hole worn in from my heel. So Honda Factory Performance sells these Berber floor mats. They only come in red, which matches the red stitching of the interior. They look very nice. The quality is very, very high. I think they were $129 if I remember correctly. And they're a wonderful addition to the car. Other than that, the car is totally stock. I've done no performance work to it yet. I plan to, and hopefully we'll do some videos of that in the future. This is a 2018 Tesla Model 3. The all-up weight of this car is, if I believe, 3,880 pounds, so it's almost exactly 1,000 pounds heavier than the Honda. It is a sedan. It's obviously electric. The Honda is a gas car. Purchase price of this car with autopilot as it sits was $56,000. So it may seem like an unfair comparison, but at the same time, it's comparison worth making, partly because I purchased both cars. I'm the same person. Why would one person buy each car? Well, they actually speak to a different part of me. They are different in certain ways and very similar in others. This car is 4 doors rather than 2, so it is a sports sedan. As I said before, it's heavier than the Honda, but it's also has quite a bit more horsepower. The Honda is rated, I believe, at 205 horsepower. Tesla states that this car is 276, but independent dyno tests have shown anywhere from 340 up to 390 wheel horsepower, depending on who you talk to. But even at the lowest, that's 340 horsepower at the wheels. And most of that is its torque. It's ridiculously powerful, especially considering that this is currently the slowest car Tesla makes, and yet it's one of the quickest cars I've ever personally driven. Definitely the quickest car I've ever owned. The seats are very comfortable. They are not as strong side bolstering as the Honda. They're definitely more for comfort, but they still hold you pretty well. The floor mats are also terrible in this car, so I bought aftermarket mats, and I have a separate video on those. So as I mentioned before, where both cars are very similar is the fastback shape, and yet they have a trunk. So you would think that this car is a hatchback, but it's not. It's just got a standard trunk. The trunk aperture is huge. It's amazing what you can fit in here. Also, there is an additional storage space that is below the trunk floor, so where you would normally have a gas tank. So the overall trunk volume is far higher on this car than it is on the Honda. So I would say where this car shines is in the technology. The performance is high as well, but the primary thing is the technology, all of the self-driving features, and which are only getting better as the updates come along. But that's a general overview of both cars, and then we can get into the specific individual traits of each. So let's get to it. One of the main reasons that I purchased this car, being a front-wheel drive small sports car, econo-box tuned to the sporting segment, is the fact that it's got a limited slip differential. Now, this is a very lightweight car, 2,800 pounds if I remember correctly. With such a lightweight car that's front-wheel drive, you tend to have traction issues, and that is very true with this car. One of the things I should have done is opted for the optional summer tires. I got the all-season tires. They have a 560 tread wear rating, and they spin very easily. First gear, you can just spin the tires all the way through first gear, and it will chirp hard in second. So definitely more power than traction. However, getting back to what I was stating before, this car comes from the factory with a limited slip differential. Absolutely makes this car what it is. If this car had an open differential, it would be useless. All you'd be doing is spinning the inside tire. And so limited slip diff, fantastic. It's got a 6-speed transmission. Hondas have always been known for their slick shifting transmissions, and this one is no different. There is a bit of turbo lag, so you have to nail it mid-corner so that as you exit the corner, the power will begin to come on. So, let's see here, mid-corner, nail it, and there's the power. So this car is, when you begin to understand it, you can drive it at a very rapid pace. However, it's not what I would call a fast car. It's a very fun car. I've been able to test the 0 to 60 times on numerous occasions, and I've got an app. I haven't used a V-Box, but my app is consistently 7.0 seconds, 0 to 60. Now, that number sounds poor until you consider a couple things. First off, as I said before, it just spins the tires. With stickier tires, that acceleration would increase tremendously. Item number 2, you slam into the red line at 57 miles an hour in second gear. So the gearing on this car is a little bit funky. You have to, it forces a third gear shift in order to hit 60. So but that 7 second 0 to 60 time is not really indicative of the performance this car has available. And second gear, tons of fun in this car. In comparison to my Model 3, I would say second gear in the meat of the power band gives just as much pull into the seat as the Tesla does. The biggest difference is, first gear you're spinning the tires, you shift into second, you get that pull for 2 seconds, and then you have to shift into third. The Tesla, you nail it, you get the pull, and that pull remains for, I'd say the acceleration doesn't really begin to diminish for about 7 seconds. And in the Tesla, by then, you are in very deep into arrest me territory in speed. So the Tesla's wonderful because every time you touch the accelerator, it sucks you into the seat and keeps you there. This car, you really got to work at it to get there, but it is available. Again, second gear is so much fun in this car. I would say that other facets of the car that I love, the stereo is very, very good quality. The sound staging, the dynamic range, it's very crystal clear. For the price point of this car is absolutely wonderful. This car, the sticker price was a little over $24,000. I think it was $24,500 if I'm remembering correctly. I paid $23,000 for it, $23,200 if I remember correctly. A little negotiation with the dealer. And for that amount of money, this car is a lot of car for what you're paying for it. The back seat is wonderful, very spacious. This happens to be the 2-door version, I like the look of the two-door better than the four-door. It is a smaller car. The body lines are better. The fastback body shape of the two-door is kind of lost on the four-door version. Also, the rear bumper is a different style on the two-door. The wing is different. It just, I believe that for my taste anyway, and you guys may be different, but for my taste, the two-door looks a lot better. Let's see, what else? The sunroof functions very well. It is nice having a sunroof in this car. So I've had this car now for 11 months, and one of the best purchases I've made, partly because there's no buyer's remorse with this car. It's inexpensive enough that you never really question yourself. It's a wonderful purchase, and this is the big area that I would say the Tesla differs from this car, is the price point. Now, I will say that comparing the little Civic Si to my Tesla Model 3 is a bit apples and oranges. The Tesla is an order of magnitude more car. It's also 2.5 times the money. So this comparison is being done primarily because I purchased both cars. I, the same individual, bought both cars. Why? If I wanted the Model 3, why not just buy the Model 3? If I wanted this car, why not just buy this car? They do appeal to different aspects of who I am, different traits of who I am, and they serve a different purpose. So, for instance, I've had the Model 3 for, I believe it's 4 months now. I've got 13,500 miles on it. I've had this car for 11 months, and it's got just shy of 6,000, 5,979. So, less than 6,000 miles. This is a weekend car. I bought it just for having fun, knocking around on the back roads on the weekends, and as a spare car. If my wife and I have a car in the shop, today my Tesla is in being tinted and having an alignment done after lowering it, and so now I'm driving this car, and it makes a wonderful spare car. It makes a wonderful weekend modest sports car. It is very, very good on gas. Right now, lifetime average is 34.2 miles per gallon. It's very easy to exceed 40. I'd say on average, if I'm tooling it around and not pushing it hard, I'm getting 42 miles to the gallon. But it's great that you can push this car, have a lot of fun with it, and yet the purchase price was low, the gas mileage is good, and let's face it, it's a Honda. It's relatively reliable and inexpensive once out of warranty to maintain. Tires are inexpensive, and just everything about this car exudes reasonable price. And that was really much of Honda's point to this car, was to market the lowest priced sports car they possibly could that still was a Honda in every sense of the word. There's reasons why I wanted to do this video, not the least of which is the fact that both of these cars actually have a lot in common. Just from a purely functional standpoint. I mean, in essence, they're very different. Obviously, this car is purely electric. The Civic Si is your traditional gasoline engine car, stick shift, and this car is rear-wheel drive. The Si is front-wheel drive. But there are some specific similarities, and I'm not talking about the paint color and interior color and all that, but similarities in the car itself. First off, both cars are of a fastback design. Seems very incidental, but I personally like that body design. Second, both of these cars really are sort of the culmination of what the manufacturer's trying to do. So, for instance, when it comes to the little Civic Si, that car is the culmination of what Honda has been dealing with and working toward ever since their inception as a company decades ago, and that is their strength, which is making more for less. So they're able to offer much more car at both a lower price point and better performance out of less technology than many other manufacturers, and that really is maximized in the little Si. That's one of the things that really attracts me to that car. Now, as far as this car, the Model 3 represents sort of the pinnacle in, not in technology per se, but the pinnacle in what can be done at a price point that can be still marketed to families that are at least in a middle income bracket. So the technology in this car is very, very high. And now the features, you know, it's not as fancy, I guess you'd say, as the Model S. It only has one screen. It doesn't have two screens, all those different things. But the actual technology, the cell technology in the battery pack, all the individual cells, the battery pack composition of the layout of the cells within the pack, the BMS system, the inverter, the drive motor, the screen and the nav, and all of that equipment is absolutely pinnacle of what is available really for vehicle use today. And so, excuse the rough road. So in that respect, both of these cars have some similarities. Now, the Model 3, some specifications. This is a rear-wheel drive, so just, again, two-wheel drive, rear wheel, long-range Model 3 with the premium upgrades package. That was the only way you could order a Model 3 when I ordered this car. So it's, again, rear-wheel drive. The rated 0 to 60 spec is 5.1 seconds, and I have verified that. It's 5.1 seconds exactly every single time. It is rated at 310 miles of range, and I can definitely echo that. In fact, it's not hard to exceed that range on a full charge. And it has the premium upgrades package, which is glass roof, premium sound, premium interior materials. Rather than cloth seats, it's got the vegan leather. It's got the finished center console rather than an open console. And I think there's a few other differences between this car and the base car. But those are the primary differences. I chose white, so that was an upcharge, $1,000 for the white, and I got autopilot. So the full price of this car was $56,000. There's no bartering with Tesla. You just pay what you pay what they ask, so to speak. So again, $56,000 for this car. The Civic, I paid $23,000. So again, 2.5 times the price for this car. Now, I bought the Civic Si as a weekend fun car. This car was bought to put a lot of miles on it. I have 13,849 miles on this car, and I've had it for about 4 months. The Civic Si I've had for almost a year. It's 11 months, and I've got just short of 6,000 miles on that car. So you can tell I barely drive the Civic. That car was purchased for weekend fun. This car was purchased because for my business, I commute a huge amount. I average anywhere from 130 up to 190 miles per day. And it's mostly local driving. Maybe 15 or 20% of those miles are on the interstate. The rest is town-to-town driving, averaging about 45 miles per hour. And that is absolutely perfect for an EV. And so I needed the long range because of the distance I drive, and in the wintertime your range diminishes, or if you want to use the climate control, your miles diminish. So I really needed 300 or more miles of range, so that using the HVAC system, or in the wintertime when the weather's cold and I see a reduction in range, I still have the upwards of 200 miles I would need to complete my day. So this is the first car that really fit that profile, other than a high-end Model S, and I admittedly don't have that much money. That would be more than twice the cost of this car, and buying this car was a stretch for me financially. So what I love about this car, it has endless bottomless torque. So at any speed, I'm going 58, and you can see there's 72. Very fast car, and it, unlike the Honda, that acceleration, that torque is there all the time. Anytime you put your foot in it, it really pulls. Now, people talk about EVs being strong from 0 to 30 miles per hour, and then they taper after that. Tesla has the software on this car tuned, so 0 to 30 is strong, but not neck snapping. At about 30 or 35, the acceleration really begins to pull hard. And I'd say from 30 or 35 up to about 65, it's really pulling strong. So when you're zipping around town going 35 or whatever, and you want to get around somebody or merge into traffic, I mean, just a quick stab on the gas pedal or the accelerator pedal, and you're 10 miles an hour faster. I mean, it's boom, boom, and you go boom, 30, boom, 40. It's super fast in acceleration from within that range. And that's the typical speed that you're going to be driving the car when you need to stab it. It's going to be at that speed range anyway. Now, cornering. This car is absolutely sticks to the ground. I mean, it is a step above the SI. Now, I was really wondering about that. When I bought the SI, I thought, you know, is the Model 3 going to corner any better? I mean, the Model 3 is a much better car, but that SI really sticks to the pavement. It corners with very little body roll. Well, once I got this car, I was amazed because it has less body roll than the SI and sticks to the road better, even though it weighs 1,000 pounds more. The SI is 2,800 pounds. This car is over 3,800 pounds. So there's a 1,000-pound weight penalty, and yet this car corners every bit as well, actually a little bit better than the SI. Now, in its current guise, I have 20-inch wheels and low-profile tires. I've gone from the 8.5-inch wide tires at the rear to 10-inch wide at the rear, and now this car, and I've had it lowered an inch. With those changes, this car has almost zero body roll whatsoever. I mean, it's really hard to detect any body roll in this car at this point. However, now I go into the SI and I notice there's a lot of body roll, or there seemed to be very little until I got into this car. This car, I don't want to say there's zero body roll, but I hesitate to say that you can feel it. I can't tell. I can't sense any body roll at all. I can throw it into a corner, and I mean, it just hooks, and really something to experience. There's probably a hint of body roll, but not enough to matter. Going from this car to the SI, which has very little body roll, there is a big noticeable difference. So I'm going to try not to color this review in light of this car being lowered and different wheels and tires, because that makes it modified, and I don't want to compare a modified expensive car to an unmodified basic car. So I want to do my best to eliminate that you know, from this review. But I must say, even with stock tires, stock suspension, this car will out-corner the SI. The Model 3 is the stereo, absolutely incredible, out of this world. I highly doubt you're going to find a car with a better sound system. The autopilot is amazing. The car is comfortable. The build quality, at least on my car, is stellar. It's very smooth. The acceleration, the cornering, the handling. This car is phenomenal, and it is, I would say, an order of magnitude above that SI. Again, I go back to, it's 2.5 times the money. And actually, now that I've put wheels and tires on it, and suspension, and had the windows tinted, it's more than 2.5 times. It's approaching 3 times the money, because at this point I have about $61,000 spent on this car when you factor in all the modifications. So absolutely beyond what I ever expected or really could have wanted in a car for this price point, expensive though it is. I have yet to have any car get around this thing. Now, admittedly, I haven't raced anybody for any long distance. Gasoline sports cars will begin to pass this above a certain speed, but this car is fast, it corners well, it's super efficient. You know, where do you find a fast car that's also the equivalent of 138 miles per gallon? I mean, every single thing, every facet of this car is top-notch. It just does everything well. And that's part of the reason that you pay what you pay for this car. So overall, absolutely incredible car. I cannot say enough good about it. It is everything I ever wanted when I ordered it. Now, would I like more performance? Sure. Do I need more performance? No. The Civic Si has enough performance to be truly fun, without getting arrested. This car is very quickly in arrest me and confiscate my car territory. Any more performance, and I would be a little bit concerned, just because I know I would want to exploit that performance. This thing's already faster than I need, and I don't want to say it's too fast, that's not the case, but I can push the SI at or near its limit without really, much drama. It's just a great car. This car, to get it near its limit, wow, am I pushing it hard. And it's clover leaves, off ramps, traffic merge points. This car is just, it is so much car that I really would be nervous about having more performance than this car already has. I guess the kind of exception to that is the rare occasion where I have somebody next to me that does want to race at a stoplight or whatever, and 0 to 60 or whatever. It would be nice to have a second faster 0 to 60, or second and a half faster that the performance model is. But honestly, for the amount of money, this car is so much car that I don't see the need for any more performance. I've mentioned in my previous videos that I was considering trading this in on an all-wheel drive or a performance model. Maybe I would have gotten the non-performance all-wheel drive just to get the added 0.6 of a second faster to 60, because it's only $5,000 more and better traction in the snow. But this car is more efficient than the all-wheel drive cars, and it's lighter weight. So honestly, I'm pretty glad at this stage that I went with the rear-wheel drive. So I love this car. I love it, I love it, I love it. And to compare the two, I would say both of these cars appeal to a specific side of me that is excited to own each of the cars. That being said, though, this is a much better car. It's much more car. Is it 2.5 times or close to 3 times the car that the SI is? Well, I guess you guys are going to have to determine that for yourselves. For me, I would say yes. All right, guys, so to wrap up the video, I know this is sort of a lopsided video. It's very, very obvious that the Tesla is a better car, but I didn't want to just cut the video off and without explaining myself. So when it comes to the Honda, I'd say that for weekend bashing fun, you cannot do better really than a small hot hatch or equivalent car. But this thing, we searched, and there were only a few cars under $25,000 brand new that really called out to us that were in that price range. So if you're looking for a weekend fun car, or if you like a car that drives the way a Model 3 does, but you don't have the money for it, honestly, the Honda has a similar driving dynamic. Cornering is very similar. It's a very efficient car. It has decent acceleration for what it is. The build quality is decent. It's very reliable. It is a very good car. Hands down, the Tesla wins this comparison by a wide margin, and I think that was obvious going into this. But it's not that simple, because they are, to a degree, apples and oranges. However, I enjoy both cars for the same reasons: efficiency, handling, decent performance, comfort. The ride is very similar as far as suspension stiffness goes and that kind of thing. So if you're looking for a phenomenal high-tech car and upwards of $60,000 doesn't scare you off, nothing even comes close to a Model 3. If you're looking for something in the $20,000 to $25,000 range that is best bang for the buck, I highly recommend the Civic Si. My wife and I have talked about trading it in on other cars. It's only got 6,000 miles on it, but maybe a Miata or just a number of other cars that are small and affordable. But you know what? This thing is fantastic. I keep going back to it as the car that really addresses, it checks all of those boxes in its price range that I'm looking for. So anyway, thanks guys.